The American public opinion of the war in Afghanistan is now becoming more important. The politicians want to know what the people are thinking. From the recent polls that have been conducted, what are the American people seeing as success in Afghanistan?
Well, I mean, as you say, a thin majority approved of the troop increase. I think that's an important marker. It's in contrast to President Bush's strategy in Iraq a couple of years ago, where there was a lot of skepticism. So he's getting fairly good marks there. In fact, his approval rating on Afghanistan a lot higher than on domestic issues at this point. He's doing relatively well.
Gayle, I want to bring you in. You're a journalist that you've gone to Afghanistan and you've covered various issues. Do you think that the media is doing a good enough job of covering the news there so that the American public can be informed to, make those decisions on these polls?
Well, I think you have to see it through the lens that you're just talking about how the American public views this war primarily, right? Through the lens of troop levels, casualties, and security. I think that there is enormous pressure on reporters to do embed stories, to get in and get out. So you do see a lot of military coverage, and perhaps less, except for some of the major papers and the Associated Press, who can do the features about what daily life is like, and the fact that daily life goes on in Afghanistan in a very real way, despite all of the fighting that's going on around them.
Within the strategy of sending more troops was a strategy of when to start the withdrawal timeline. Right. And it said that in 2011, in the summer sometime, this would start. Do you think that's a realistic strategy?
The president and his administration have kind of put themselves on the line. Once you set these dates, it's very hard to pull out from that. In a sense, it is realistic. We saw it in Afghanistan. They set a troop withdrawal date. In fact, that was the Bush administration toward the end of its term in office. They set this troop withdrawal date, and it seems to be going on course. The president was very careful to leave some wiggle room to say, yes, we're going to pull out the majority of our troops there. From Afghanistan, okay. Excuse me, but military bases will still be there. And under certain scenarios, there still could be tens of thousands. So no president is going to say, we're getting every last troop out by X date, because that would be seen as inviting a target for the terrorists.
Any stories that you think are underreported, or that you have wanted to cover but haven't been able to?
I have the luxury of being able to cover a very specific issue about economic development and what things are like in terms of the climate for entrepreneurship, the climate for women-owned businesses, but also the broader business climate, and looking at the challenges of doing real economic development in a region that is extremely troubled and that is still experiencing great violence. But I think it's challenging to find space and time, more importantly time, for a lot of reporters, a lot of terrific reporters who are on the ground, because there is simply too much in terms of the daily exchange on the military side. And every time there is a casualty, for good reason, a lot of reporters must focus on that and must find out what the security story is first because of their audiences. So I think what I find is so interesting is when I come back, people always say, and I've gotten a number of emails from readers saying, we didn't know that this and this goes on. I mean, daily life goes on in a very real way across Afghanistan. And it is sometimes hard when you read the coverage here to remember that.